afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your first and final show of the week. I'm TraderMerlin. Well, Merlin Rothfield is really my name, but TraderMerlin's the name I go by. Hope you had a good weekend out there. I did as well. Enjoyed having my friend Nick in town for 2.5 weeks. Safe travels, Nick. I'll hopefully see you on the other side of the pond at some point here soon, but back to somewhat semblance of normal. As you guys know, I'm going to be leaving tomorrow afternoon, and I'll be gone all the way through Sunday. So no shows the remainder of the week. Unfortunately for you guys, I guess unfortunately for me as well, because you guys know I love doing these shows. So that is the story there. Before I dive into today's market stuff, including the deal, Margaret, what deal? Oh, the deal. Here's the presentation I'm giving tomorrow morning. This will be for the Money Show. Yeah, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Okay, well, that changes things a little bit. All right, I can do that. 10 a.m. Eastern Time, apparently, will be the presentations, which means 7:10 in the morning. I'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for that one, that is for sure. The topics will be red flags in crypto, how to avoid scams, rug pulls, regulatory traps. That's it. That's my only presentation. It's only a 30-minute one, so it shouldn't be too long or daunting, but if you guys are around, you can check that one out. And I think that it will be recorded. You can find out all the information you need to know about that one at themoneyshow.com. And I also, if I am correct in my assessment here, I also have a link for you if you guys want to just click this link to follow it, and let me put it in the chat for you so you guys have that one. Ba-boom, bada bing. There we go. So that is the marketing side of things. As far as the markets go today, not what I was expecting. As you guys know, I still have that position in MicroStrategy, and I did not sell calls against my position on Friday, which I wanted to, but I was just under the impression and just felt like the way momentum was going that we'd start to see a bullish surge in crypto over the weekend. Yeah, it didn't happen. I guess I was on the wrong side of things. Markets kind of tanked there a little bit, and we'll explain why, what some of the justification was for that. But I'm going to start with the bigger news out there, which is another day, another deal. And of course, as markets continue to evolve and move and change every single day with more and more data that comes towards us, there are deals that happen. And this one, of course, involves Big Eb's favorite stock. That would be Nvidia. So let me bring up NVDA. There's your Nvidia stock, which, by the way, had an all-time closing high today, all-time intraday high, and was up 3.93%, slightly off of its high, off of very good news. And that news, what pray tell was it? Well, it has to deal with more money. And when you look at this one at face value, it sounds amazing. When I start to look at some of the details, it's like, ooh, how are they going to pull this one off? So essentially the deal is this. Nvidia and OpenAI, OpenAI is doing a $100 billion deal with Nvidia. And Nvidia is saying, we will give you 100 gigawatts of compute. 100 gigawatts. And I don't have all the specs for the one that Facebook or Meta is building, but Meta, I believe, is 2 gigawatts verse of compute. So there was all that uproar and talk about how Meta was doing this massive facility. It's huge, can take years, just massive, right? This is 5 times bigger. So clearly OpenAI is looking at this as the long play, saying we have all the infrastructure we're going to need to build out all the services and products that we're going to be building and selling to people. Remember, nonprofit, right, Elon Musk? 10 gigawatts worth of compute is incredible. Now, if you break it down into the numbers, this is where everybody who is long on Nvidia has got to feel pretty good here. From what I've read, it would take between 4 and 5 million of the units that Nvidia sells, of the GPUs that they sell, to come up with that level of computational power. That is pretty crazy. To think that you'd have to buy 4 to 5 million of these GPUs from Nvidia when there's already a massive backlog. So I've got a couple of concerns here on this one. I know it's another day, another deal, but it's also big deals. I mean, this one's huge. And there's also a phrase in the industry that has me a little bit wary, and that is, some of you may know this one, you don't get high off your own supply. Okay, so OpenAI is doing a deal with Nvidia, of which Nvidia is footing part of the bill. So Nvidia is somewhat backing the deal because they know that OpenAI will now be committed to the services and infrastructure and products that Nvidia sells. That's kind of getting high off your own supply. You're like kind of pressuring people to go in to use your goods and services, even though they're still the best. So it seems a little bit suspect that the one who's going to benefit the most of this one, Nvidia, is the one that's backing the deal with OpenAI. Should make people out there a little nervous, right? I mean, not that it's going to be a deal breaker, but it certainly should be something you look at. Well, that's kind of odd. The person that's benefiting the most from this deal is the one who's actually backing part of the deal. So makes me a little bit nervous as an Nvidia holder. However, at this point in time, if they break ground and build more facility and can actually get to those 4 to 5 million GPUs, then the profits for Nvidia will be off the charts. And as Big Eb says, it was kissing $4.5 trillion market cap today. If they can pull this off with OpenAI, this thing could be $6 trillion market cap. I mean, this could be massive money coming in. And I think that OpenAI is kind of setting the example of for AI, meaning we're going all in. And we have NVIDIA's backing, we got NVIDIA's support, and because we're going to be one of NVIDIA's biggest clients, we'll get preferential treatment on new models and technology, et cetera. So to me, it's a pretty phenomenal deal. And as Mick says, this deal might not sit well with Elon. What's Elon going to do? Right? I mean, sure, Elon's not going to be happy with this deal at all because now that gives OpenAI a little bit of a leg up on what Elon wants to do, right? I love what Grok has done. I love what X has done because I think it's really flipping the bird to OpenAI and Sam Altman saying, look, we don't like you, so we're going to beat you and give our services away cheaper than you are. Well, now OpenAI can put on the gas pedal here and really offer a lot more services, products, and who knows what other things they would be offering with AI. I can imagine that Elon Musk will probably, I don't know whether he's going to jump into the fray as well and become like bidding war type stuff and say, well, I'll do a $200 billion center with you guys if you give me this, and this, and make some kind of concessions. But that's the big news. As you can tell, that really did reward Nvidia today. You saw a pretty big pop in their share price. 3.93%, as Big Eb said, almost $4.5 trillion market cap. Unbelievable. Mick says he'll do his own thing. He will. However, Elon Musk can do all that he wants by himself. If he doesn't have access to NVIDIA's chips, which right now are the absolute benchmark standard around the world, it's not going to help him any, right? He needs NVIDIA's chips to compete with OpenAI. Now, do we get different competitors? I don't know. I just don't see anybody on the horizon that can compete with what NVIDIA is doing at this moment in time. Remember, NVIDIA also invested money back into Intel, and they're invested all over the place. So you're looking for a market driver, in my opinion, it's pretty much all on NVIDIA's shoulders. I feel like NVIDIA is Atlas at this moment, just carrying the whole market on its back. And yes, I do understand many of you will tell me, well, the Magnificent Seven are doing so well. They are, but NVIDIA really is shouldering most of this because Microsoft's ambitions and dreams, and here's the trend for Microsoft, Microsoft's ambitions and dreams are going to be hinged on the success of NVIDIA. Meta, their dreams with AI are going to be hinging on the success of NVIDIA. You have Tesla. Believe it or not, Tesla, they have hopes and dreams of their own, and they're still using NVIDIA. So all these companies are using big NVIDIA products and services. It goes back to Margaret's comment that just came through. NVIDIA is a monopoly. That's a good question, and it may be something that down the road comes up as an antitrust, because at this moment in time, it would appear to me that NVIDIA is in such the driver's seat position that they can ask for concessions from all their different customers because, hey, if you want this much, well, here's what we need from you, right? And work all kinds of crazy deals because NVIDIA does have, at this point, a monopoly. Now, how long will that last, right? How long will NVIDIA's GPUs be the elite standard before someone catches up with them? That I don't know. I have no idea. But Margaret says more power outages in our future. Depends on where these data centers are at. I mean, if you think about the one, and I don't know where they're going to be building the one for, I don't know where they're going to be building this center for the new OpenAI NVIDIA deal, but 10 gigawatts of power is significant. I mean, it's like you get your own nuclear reactor for that one and just call it your own. That's, I think, going back to our conversation we had several months back about Oklo and others, these nuclear companies really are set to reap the rewards from more of this power consumption. And I don't think anyone in this room feels that energy consumption is going to decline. If anything, it's going to accelerate at a parabolic rate, not just because of AI, which will run everything, but you also have the push towards alternative energy vehicles and EVs. There's a lot of demand for energy, and I think you're going to have to see much more nuclear power being built. I have not seen it, but I would like to see what is the schedule for the United States with regards to energy production to meet demand, right? How are we going to meet the demands of the consumer? there was a good talk track a while back about how the president was it Gavin Newsom? I think Gavin Newsom wanted to have 30% of the vehicles EV by whatever end of the year or something. Really, I think it was Biden actually. Excuse me, some ridiculous number. And I was like, if you achieve those levels that you were looking for, President Biden, we don't have the infrastructure out here in California to support it. Right? There's just not enough stations, not enough power to handle all of a sudden all these cars and everything else going electric. It's just I've already seen my electric bill go from $100 a month to $290 a month, and that's without all the massive demand. And where I live is not a big tech area, right? Been selling puts on Oklo for a nice premium, I bet. You got to be careful on that one, Lori, at least because of this big rally that's happened. I mean, it's gone from 70 to 140, as Big Eb says. 100% rate of return in 10 days is pretty damn amazing. Typically, moves like that have big retracements, but it's been a wonderful ride here for Oklo and others. There's your SMR, which had that big jump on Friday, as most of the nuclear stuff did. A little bit down today, 3.7% slide, and down a little bit more in the after-hour session. So these big deals that are happening, whether it's done between a tech firm like Apple and the U.S. government, or it's done between two tech firms like we saw the other day with Oracle doing a big deal, we saw Nvidia doing a big deal. These are huge. I mean, these are monstrous deals that, in my opinion, would cause you to want to buy something like the NASDAQ 100, because most of the companies that are going to benefit from this are not the small cap little micro pieces. These are the big players cementing their foothold in the future of the informational world, which would be AI. Oh, boy. Well, on that note, let me go back through. I already ran through some of these. When we look at the gainers and losers for the day, it was interesting seeing the big spread between the Magnificent Seven. You had Apple was a nice 4.3% gain today, just continuing its wonderful rally here off that quick little retest at 225 and just kept on ripping up. You look back at Apple, we're not at all-time highs yet, but we are creeping up on them very close. Let me put a line across the top here so you guys can all see what that all-time high is. That is, bam, $260.10. Right now we're at $256.45 in the after-hour session, so not too far away, literally $4 up, and we'd be at all-time highs for Apple. Considering it moved to almost $11 today, could easily achieve that tomorrow. Now, Nvidia was on the heels of that one. iPhone 17 sales projections are great. I hate to say it, but I have to go get a new phone, and I don't want to get the 17. I'd take last year's model at a cheaper price. Right? Give me the 16. But for some reason, my phone will not charge with the typical charge plug. It's driving me absolutely crazy, so I gotta get myself a new phone. And for those of you who are wondering what's going on with my hair, this is what happens when you comb your hair with your pillow. Oh, no, I wore a hat today, and my hair just always looks so funky. Gonna get it cut here soon. Okay, back to our matter at hand, going back through our Magnificent Seven. Tesla, I'm so disappointed with this one. I really want Tesla to sell off. I really want to buy back into Tesla, and I'm frustrated that I got out of that 338 level, or right around that 338 level, and just, irritated. I'd love to have this thing continue to fall. Fall. Go down. I'm willing it to go down, but remember, long haul, I'm very bullish on Tesla. You can see that chart. Not that you need that moving average on there. I think that's a 50-period moving average you put on. Yep, 50-period moving average. Nice slope to the upside. Just started to curl. Looks pretty good. Now, the only thing that concerns me about this one is how quickly it's accelerated to the upside. Right, we've gone from 338 to 440 in just about 2 to 3 weeks. That's a pretty significant run up there for Tesla. Either way, great day for Tesla, but it wasn't all roses. Microsoft down 0.67%, although nothing exciting from a technical perspective there. Louis says my best deal is going to be with the 17. Maybe I'll have to see if I can go get it today. Imagine if the country didn't have electricity for a week. Imagine if it didn't have it for a day. If the entire country shut down electricity for a day, can you imagine the chaos that would ensue? Daytime would be fine, we all wouldn't work, but when nighttime came around, the robbing and looting would be off the charts. This is where those of us who do own weapons, because it is my amendment, right, my Second Amendment, right, would probably be very close to those weapons late at night. You see when there's big power outages, all the looting that goes on for businesses and stuff like that. Yeah, I can't imagine one day of just power outage here in the U.S. Now, we do get them every now and again in different cities for different reasons, but I think it's going to probably be a little bit more prevalent going forward, especially with the demand on the grid system. Google. down 0.92% on the day. Chart looks absolutely fantastic. Doesn't look weak at all. Amazon, probably the weakest of the bunch, but the good news for anyone who's looking at a buying opportunity, Amazon is actually right at its 50-period moving average. It's right at the low we achieved about 6 days ago. So all in all, Amazon looks like a pretty decent buy at this point. I did not make any trades today. Did not. Mike's obviously long on Tesla. I just want to buy in, Mike. I'm okay if it goes down for one day and then rips up. I just want to get in. I need to get in. And Meta was your biggest loser on the day, down 1.70%, but technically not looking too bad. I know Margaret's going to chime in here in the chat in about 3 seconds and say double top on Meta, and I would concur with you. Now, if you're actually looking at a double top formation on this, what you'd have to do to get absolute confirmation that it's a double top is to draw a box around that. So I'll put a little rectangle around here. And and there's your yellow box around the current price action. Now, it didn't hit exactly up to that high at 796, but it did make a slightly lower high and then had a big sell-off today. So unless we get down below 721, we can't officially call it a double top because it could turn into a triple top, could turn into a ascending triangle, could turn into a cup and handle, it could turn all kinds of different patterns. But yes, it does have a double peak on that one for Meta. We'll have to wait and see going forward what it ultimately turns out to be. Yep, and support on the simple moving average. But this is a 50. Really depends on perspective. Some people like to use the 20, the 40, the 50, the 200. I don't have a big dog in that fight. What I would say with this one here, if we're looking at Meta, I like this strategy. Again, I have a couple friends that have used this strategy in the past. What they'll do is they take this and they will drop it down and make it fit. Oh, so actually this would have to go up. So let me go up until the moving average cups the low from September 2nd. I'm just bumping this up. And I know it seems weird to do. And that looks like right there. It's the 68 period moving average. That would connect that low that hit on September 2nd, although I'd like to see it hit multiple points, but it's only got that 1 point worth of data. But that's something that you could use as well to potentially track prices here and see where it might bounce off of. For me, it does feel like Meta, if it continues this pull off, will be at 745 in the next couple days if it continues to drift lower. Trump and Elon are friends again. Yeah, look, this is just political stage. It's ridiculous how it goes back and forth. Ebbs and flows all the time. Find it rather annoying, but hey, it is what it is. All right, what else do we have? I had a question that came in from Mike, who's here today. And thank you, Mike, for the nice words. It was nice to get those comments from you. He said, I'm curious because a few years ago you said that you had a goal of making a triple-digit gain. I think what you mean is a six-figure gain. Triple-digit gain would be like $100, $200, $300. That's an easy goal to achieve, right? The 4 figures, the 5 figures, those are fine. I've had those many, many times. I have actually had a 6-figure day in the equity markets, but it was a 6-figure loss. Actually, no, it wasn't in one trade. It wasn't in one day. That was an options trade, so it wasn't one day. That was over a few weeks. That was on Best Buy. Lost $100,000 on put options. Ridiculous. But I have had 6-figure days in crypto. But that happens somewhat regularly given the volatility, especially when you look at what happened out there today. These days are huge. I mean, today was a pretty significant down day. Yeah, 6-figure gain. Yeah, I haven't had an up single day 6-figure day. And the primary reason for that, Mike, is this. I typically I could probably say that in a day I have had a 6-figure day if you combine all the accounts. But as far as having one trade, like here's a Microsoft trade and pulling 6 figures out of that, no, haven't had that yet. And I don't think I will, primarily because for me, to have 6 figures with one stock means I'm taking a pretty significant risk, right? I'm putting all my eggs in that basket, or at least a big portion of my eggs in that basket. I personally would much rather have 5 or 6 different positions to kind of hedge each other a little bit if I need to, have that sort of safety and security. Because some of the stuff that I've been trading, as you've seen, is extremely volatile. Palantir, Nvidia, CoreWeave, SMCI, MicroStrategy. I mean, these could have 10, 15, 20% down days like that off some bad news or some weird thing happen. And I can't take that kind of risk. So I probably won't have a 6-figure up day for one position. But in an account overall, I've had 6-figure up days for sure. Absolutely. I think combining gains is great. I don't know, man. In my mind, mentally, it's an individual trade because that means you really just absolutely crushed it. And who knows? It may come a day where I do have that, but for the most part, I try not to take too much risk anymore. And granted, I know many of you would look at the positions I'm in and the way that I trade and be like, my God, Merlin, you shouldn't be doing that. I'm managing my risk, right? I'm okay with that. I think new people should be much more careful because they don't put in stop losses, they don't have risk management techniques, and they could get wiped out. So definitely had them. The one that I have not had yet would be a 7-figure day overall, and that would be fun. I'd love to have a 7-figure day, preferably to the upside. But again, that would take on so much risk for me to get that. I'm not interested in that at this moment. Marcus is a consistent 10K per week. Selling options is great. I'd say a consistent $10,000 per week is phenomenal, right? If you do $40,000 or $10,000 a week, you're looking at basically $500,000 a year from trading. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The tough part, and this is one challenge I've had with numbers like this, is if you put that pressure on yourself to say I got to make $10,000 this week, and you make 5. Now what's the next week? Are you putting pressure to make 15 to make up for that 5? Now you're changing the things that you do because you need to add more risk to get those bigger gains. That's why I like percentages. I just think that because percentages can be dynamic based off what your account balance is. So yeah, I'm a bigger fan of just looking for percentages. Rob says, yes, too risky when it all works. Yeah, well, when it all doesn't work is what I'm worried about. Let's see. Merlin, are you still planning to sell all your Bitcoin in November? No, I'm not. No. At this point, no. So let's shift our focus onto that topic, which, where was it? I think I put a graphic on here. I thought I did. Oh, I didn't put a graphic up for that one. I even created a picture. Let me, since I created the graphic, I may as well put it in the slides, which I did not do. Let me add that one in here real quick, and we'll just call this, send it to back. The beauty of doing things on the fly. So here is this one. It says all-time highs on there, but we'll delete that bad boy, and it's going to be called crypto. All right, so many of you are probably thinking, what in the heck is happening with crypto? There's my crypto crash slide. Well, things were looking pretty good going into the weekend. I'll bring up the spot price of Bitcoin so we can see that chart. Everything looked great, looked fine going into the weekend. And then last night, things started to crash. And you can see here on the chart, Bitcoin, this is the spot market, so it's going to have the weekends. But we had that sell-off on Friday. It really based Saturday, Sunday, and as we came into Monday morning, that's when it really fell apart. And one of the big things for this, the justifications for this was, not that it fell below the 68-period moving average, which is on my screen. Let's get rid of that stupid 68, although it seems like it worked. One of the big reasons for this is because of the transparency in crypto, you can see where the leverage longs and leverage shorts are. We talked about that. When we were having that nice melt up in Bitcoin several months ago, it was really about looking at the leveraged short positions. All these people were taking 10, 50, 100x short positions against Bitcoin. Well, what happened was, from what I've been gathering, is there was a significant amount of leverage longs. And I don't know why. There it is. So here's your table of leverage. And you can see right now, a lot of it's been liquidated, but there still are some pretty significant spikes down below us. And if they can push price, which is not that difficult to do, they could push this price further down. And once it starts to hit these levels, let's say 111,000 on Bitcoin, it's going to be liquidating, a lot of stuff. You can see here, it's showing you on when I mouse over, you see a little box there. It says 100x leverage. There's people out there. There's $19.79 million worth of Bitcoin that's using 100x leverage. That's gigantic, right? That's a huge number. That ends up being like $1.9 billion worth. So that would liquidate if it got to these levels, and there's some much higher levels over here. But notice the upside as well. As this liquidation occurs, people are doing what's called a flash loan, where you can take a loan that has to be paid back within the block. Since the Bitcoin's block is 10 minutes, these flash loans can last up to 10 minutes. And what it really allows them to do is they can borrow massive amounts of money, do a huge amount of leverage at 100 to 1, and just push Bitcoin's price down. They can crush Bitcoin's price that way. So now what happens is you can see there's a lot more leverage shorts right now. Huge amounts of leverage shorts that have built up around the $113,000, $114,000 mark. So at this point, if you look at the moth to the flame mentality, it actually looks like the upside move here is more probable because you have more leverage shorts that way. And typically you go by where the max pain is, right? Wherever there's the most pain, that's where it's going to go to. And you see these huge blocks between 112,000 and 114. Massive amount of people leverage shorts. So if it starts to rally, guys, you know, this loss we had today, which had a lot of people freaking out, that can be erased very, very, very quickly. And again, the red bars here represent 100 to 1 leverage. The yellows are 50 to 1 leverage, and there's all kinds of other little leverage levels. But these guys here near the money right now is massive, massive short potential, short squeeze potential, in my opinion. Okay. Let me quickly catch up on your chat here to make sure I got everybody. Liz says, so back to the discussion of long liquidations causing a price drop, but sailor buying, never-ending boatloads doesn't pump price. Well, Michael Saylor's not using leverage, is he? Michael Saylor's using cash, at least for what we're led to believe, right? At least what we're being told. So if Michael Saylor's using cash and he goes and buys $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, great, that's awesome. But if somebody's out there using, and as you can see right here, there's a level right here. You can see it says $51 million is using 100 to 1 leverage. That means that that's $5 billion worth of value. Right? So Sailor's using all cash. These guys are using heavy leverage, which is why you get the volatility in cryptos, because it has this massive leverage. And even if U.S. regulators come out in the Clarity Act and say, hey, we're not going to allow 100x leverage in America, it's not going to make a damn bit of difference because you can't use 100 to 1x in leverage in America anyway. This is all done on international exchanges like OKX and Huobi and KuCoin. These are exchanges that are outside of the U.S., so most of them aren't going to be subject to any U.S. regulation. Maybe there does at some point become some domestic, but you know, with crypto with forex, for those of you who trade forex, you know that the most you're going to get here is it 50 now? I think it's 50 to 1 is the most you can get leverage in the U.S. Spot markets. But it used to be 1,000. Get whatever you wanted. But then they put caps on it because it wipes out investors. And I'm sure that there are some places that are offering heavier than 100 to 1 leverage. But that's super risky for anybody who's offering that. So, yeah, these are the pieces that are contributing to that volatility. And you can see that today, 2.21% really wasn't that big of a deal. And I can see why people were leveraged long here. Right? I would assume that 114 it would have stopped. Now it did not. So we have to look for where's that next spot for it to run to. Right? If you're looking for another level, there's a couple that I think we just actually literally bounced off today at 112. 112 would be the next logical point for me to expect there to be a bounce. And we're at it right now. So in my mind, I am expecting there to be a bounce. I'm expecting it to move back to the upside. I'm expecting those leveraged shorts to all of a sudden freak out. And they may get liquidated, which will cause another big rally, which could push us above that 118, 119 mark. So it's it's wild. You look at especially some of the numbers that happen in crypto today. I'll just short from the worst performers. Look at all these double digits. And most of this stuff is garbage, but like Cake tokens. I mean, Cake was doing great. I was loving it because I've got a bunch of Cake tokens. It went from $2.50 to $3.10 in like 4 days and pretty much gave it all back in 2 days. Dogecoin, garbage. Algorand is a good one, but Algorand really not looking good from a technical perspective. They got crushed down 8%. I mean, all of these are 8, 7% declines on the day. Very few, if any, are to the upside. Notice this one here. PAXG. For those that don't know, that's gold, right? This is a digital token that represents 1 ounce of gold. So that one is soaring today because of gold. And then you have mobile coin, which really hasn't done much at all, just kind of stuck there. So who cares about mobile coin? And that's it. All right, let's see, what do we got? Who needs praise? Someone need a hug out there? Flash loads done by a broker like Coinbase. No, it can be done in a wide variety of different places. Typically, it's done through DeFi marketplaces, so you don't know who the backer is. You can go to different DeFi sites, you can get flash loans, but again, they have to be paid back instantly with the fee. So it's a great way to use massive leverage, but you're on the hook to pay it back immediately, like literally within seconds, depending on which block you're using, right? So if you're using a flash loan on something like Ethereum's block time is about 13 seconds. You got 13 seconds to pay it back. Bitcoin's 10 minutes. You get 10 minutes to pay it back. So if you're Solana, not a lot of flash loans going on with Solana because it's 400 milliseconds, right? 0.4 of a second. Tough to do that one. All right, what else we got? Mark's going to be teaching. How much is this fractional lending? Kay Sweeney says, how much is the fractional lending impacting all of this? That's a phenomenal question, which I do not have an answer to. I really don't. And I've mentioned this before, what could be the black swan that takes crypto down significantly? It could really be the fractional reserve lending that's going on. I just don't know. And I don't think anybody has a clear understanding, because where's the transparency of Coinbase? If I go out and look at Coinbase's books, does it tell me how much they actually own versus how much they've rehypothecated of customer funds? I don't think it tells me all that information. So in my opinion, it's a big impact on it. I just don't know exactly to what extent it's pushing the price of Bitcoin down, or could be influencing the price of Bitcoin. She says, Merlin, then is it a good idea to sell the Bitcoin now before it crashes? Up to you, Chio. I don't know. I can't. I'm not an investment advisor, so I can't give you financial advice in that sense. I'm going to probably hold my Bitcoin. I do think that this time is different. I do think that this time is a different dynamic, so I don't believe the 4-year cycle is going to happen. However, last year there wasn't a specific market technical thing or last time it happened, there wasn't a specific type of event that happened that caused the 4-year cycle. It wasn't a predictable event. It was a black swan event. It was the Terra Luna, which I don't, that's LUNC. I think it's LUNC now. This is what caused the beginning of the last 4-year cycle. To the day, it happened in November. I'm going to put this on a weekly, but here is Terra Luna, right? Terra Luna just cratered. It absolutely imploded. It was down 90-something%. And that was when they went under due to all the crazy leveraging that was going on and rehypothecation of funds and FTX. And, that uncovered this whole crazy world of fraud and deception and just shady activity going on. Nobody knew that was coming, right? That kind of came out of nowhere. Otherwise, the trend for Bitcoin is phenomenal at that point. Could the same thing happen this time? Absolutely. So if you are nervous and you do feel that the pattern is going to repeat, then the prudent thing to do would be to either protect your position or sell your Bitcoin. I don't think it's going to happen this time. I think we've got too many political tailwinds. I think with President Trump in office, he's going to do everything in his power to make money off of crypto for him and his family. Period. You can all point your finger at Nancy Pelosi and say she's using her post and her position and her power to make money off the markets. You think Trump's any different? Not at all. The difference is Trump already has companies that are built around crypto with World Liberty Financial and Truth Social. They're building out 3 different ETFs that are all crypto related. His son's running different venture firms in American Bitcoin. So I think you have, at least until Trump's out of office, extremely favorable regulatory and market environment for crypto. I don't see a black swan happening. Now, as we get near the end of his term and we maybe get a new president that might be anti-crypto, that might change things. But it seems to me like everything right now it's just running on all cylinders. So, yeah, no more shows the rest of the week. I'm going to be gone. I'll be gone. I will send you the pictures I can, the ones that are PG. So the R-rated ones, we'll keep that for a different channel, maybe the Discord. But no, I'm totally kidding. It should be pretty interesting. And again, for those of you who have not seen it, Mad Max Fury Road is a good movie. I like the original Mad Max, but Fury Road is pretty cool. Imagine all those cars with the spikes and the people on those little poles that are flying around and fighting with flares and fire and all that stuff. That's what this is like. It's like a Burning Man, but of Mad Max, post-apocalyptic. So if I make it back in one piece, we'll do a show the day I come back. I'll be fine. I don't plan on hurting myself, but it sounds like it's just a crazy thing. And you know what? Through all of this, I've just been telling myself that life is precious. Life is so short. You got to go do something different. So when I was invited to this, I'm like, you know what? Let's go do it. And it'll be fun. We'll have a good time and go do it. Okay. For me, trade-wise, I don't really have other... Were you going to New Jersey? No, New Jersey. Yeah, big emphasis. Notice how Bitcoin, crypto's not correlated with the overall market any longer. I don't know if I could say any longer, but I do feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect going on now, right? We had a period where it felt like it was lockstep tied to the equity markets. Now, it's kind of disconnecting a little bit. It may reconnect at some point. Position-wise, yeah, these are the only yeah, I still just have these two positions on. So the MicroStrategy and the Nvidia, the MicroStrategy and the Nvidia are gone. I just have the SMCI puts and the UNH. Both of those should expire worthless this Friday. We'll see. While I'm out there, I may actually be making some trades, but I still have the MicroStrategy, and that did not do well today. We were down 2.25%, but it's up a little bit in the after-hour session, so still hurting on that one. But I think I'll be okay in the long run on MicroStrategy as long as Bitcoin gets its feet underneath it. It should be okay. And I do think that rally in Bitcoin is going to start with some leveraging, liquidation of leverage shorts here over the next week or so. So I'll probably hold off on selling calls against MicroStrategy just because I think it's going to have a little bit of a rip, but we shall see. Can't call it digital gold anymore. Nope. Florida, where there's hurricanes and storms. Yeah, well, I will be in Florida the first week of October for 2 days, and I come back here for a week, and then I'm going back to Florida for the money show. I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be a busy boy. What's the take on DXY? Continue to drop? Seems like it. Yeah, I mentioned this a while back. What's my favorite phrase, Sweeney? One of my favorite phrases. I told you, if I ever got a tattoo, the tattoo would probably say one thing. Don't worry, it's nothing about my ex. I won't bring that up at all. The trend is your friend until the bend at the end, right? And at this point, it does look like prices keep going lower and lower and lower. Now, to be fair, if you look at what's going on with the moving average, right? So this is a 50-period moving average. I could change it to whatever time frame you want. Let's go put a 20-period on here just for fun. Right? Note it. Well, actually, I did like the 50 better. Well, let's do that 50. 50 was more visual as far as what the trend looks like. So you can see that all through here in February, March, April, May, June, July, it was down below that 50-period moving average and trending lower. So on a positive note, the dollar index's rate of descent has slowed down, which is, we could argue good and we could argue bad, right? Ken says use the 60, or Les says use the 68. All right, just for fun, let's use that 68-period moving average. We might be onto something here. It's a secret sauce. Still trending down. Not much better there, but you can see even with the 68 for you, Les, that the rate of descent has slowed down, and it feels like it's starting to at least base and go sideways a little bit, right? Yes, it's making new lows, but it's not as aggressively down as it was before. So with that regard, I'm okay with it continuing its trend, but I would be watching for breaks. So if it starts to make some new highs, then that dollar may turn around. I think that this goes back to some of the political statements I made earlier, which are when you have the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, and the President of the United States both demanding that this goes down, that the dollar goes down, I don't see why it wouldn't, right? They want to keep pushing this down. They want a weak dollar, which if you guys read the upcoming article, so October 1st, Russ Allen will be doing an article on interest rates, and you know it sounds great because for every if the dollar keeps falling, every good and service that we export to any other part of the world gets cheaper, unless the country's currency is falling even faster than ours, which probably is not happening. The troublesome side here is if the dollar keeps falling and you have a company that relies on imported resources. So let's say you're Starbucks. If this dollar continues to fall and you're buying most of your coffee from Brazil and the dollar keeps falling but the Brazilian real is accelerating in value, that means when we go to buy coffee, or Starbucks goes to buy coffee with weak dollars, they have to pay more dollars to buy more real and it gets more expensive. So that could drive inflation higher if that dollar continues to drop. But that's going to be for companies that import into the U.S. If you're an exporter, hallelujah, it's great. You want a weak dollar. If you're an importer, you want a strong dollar, right? Let's see. Yep, Russ is still around. Absolutely. Yep. I'm pretty sure I just tore my... Oh, Big Ab, don't be hurting yourself. It's getting cooler in Europe, too, where they're cool. Drinking the fall winter. JP just got here. Okay. On electronic consumption, did you see Spain electric outage? No, I did not see that one. Make it a good case for taking a contrarian poll. You did make a good case for it. I just didn't have a chance to set it all up today, and I'm gonna have to wrap up here soon, so I won't be doing that one today. But maybe when I come back, I will. I like the poll, Mike. I like both your emails that you sent. Were great. Broad market. Look, since I'm leaving, you should just go and look at the economic calendar for the week. And I'll scroll through here so you guys can see the bigger stuff. Nothing really happening today. A couple things happening tomorrow if you're looking at flash services and manufacturing numbers. Of course, our numbers come out at 9:45 a.m. Eastern time, so that's going to be 15 minutes into the trading session, so keep your eye on that one. But that's not that big. Tomorrow you do have Bostic speaking. Remember, Bostic has said he doesn't see the need for any more rate cuts for the rest of the year. Just throwing that out there. Not that his opinion is the one that matters, but you got one member saying, no, we're good. We did one, forget it. Number two is you have Powell speaking later on that day. There's going to be at 12:45, but Bostic and Bowman will be speaking as well, so that's important. Wednesday, pretty much goose egg except for new home sales. You have Swiss National Bank will be coming out with their rate announcement on Thursday, but really this is where it starts to get exciting for the United States. We get our final GDP number, and I think a lot of people are really focusing on that one, right? Because Jerome Powell's made it pretty clear unemployment is ticking up and they're concerned. That's why we cut 25 basis points to, what did he say? It's a risk management cut, I believe is what he called it. Okay, fine. Inflation for him. It's higher than they wanted, but it's not bad. Therefore, the rate cut was justified. GDP is that extra wild card, which isn't really their mandate, but yes, it could potentially create problems for them going forward. They want to see increasing GDP because, of course, declining GDP could lead to the dreaded word of stagflation. So that is happening on Thursday. Thursday is one of your bigger days, obviously, because you have the GDP numbers, you have unemployment claims, you have durable goods orders, so a lot of big stuff, including three more members of the Fed speaking on Thursday. And then the real big day, actually, hold on, there are 7 members of the FOMC will be speaking on Thursday. Careful on Thursday. And then the big stuff, the biggest piece, is going to be that core PCE price index number, which happens Friday. That will be at 1 hour before the equity markets open. Right now, the expectations are that PCE is going to drop from 0.3 to 0.2, which I'm sure the markets will rejoice over that one. It means the more that number drops, the more likely we're going to get another 2 cuts here. At least as other members feel 2 more rate cuts before the end of the year. Yeah, that's true. But you could also, do you listen to Merlin, who says they need to be 2 full points lower? That's 200 basis points. So some of the Fed members are thinking 50 basis points by the end of the year. Bostic saying 0 cuts by the end of the year. If you're going off 25 basis point cuts, then Merlin saying 8 by the end of the year. Someone is off their rocker. Someone is off their rocker. That's right, Oliver. Hope your weekend went well. Hope you kept your chin up there and everything is going all right. There's a ton of credit out there, but remember, that's what the markets do. They issue credit, they buy, they drive things up, and then we get a credit crisis and things crash and it comes right back down. So that's just the nature of the markets. He wants another job. I don't think Merlin's an idiot. I think Merlin is playing the political game. He's trying to make sure that he secures a bigger job in wherever he goes after this. I think that's what I just saw comment in here. Yeah, Margaret saying he wants another job. Yep, absolutely. He is. He's aggressively saying what Trump wants to say. He's basically giving Trump another voice inside the FOMC. Which, nice job, Trump, to put someone in there. But really, to cut 200 basis points, he's thinking 200 basis points lower, just so he can put that on a graph here and show you visually what that might look like. Ideally, he's probably not wrong that we should be 200 basis points lower, just not right now. All right, we've got to wait a little bit for that one. So here is the U.S. FOMC Fed funds rate. If you look at where Merlin wants us to be, we're at 4.25. That would be 2.25. That's right where my horizontal line is. That's significantly lower. And to do that, that would cause so much chaos in the market. It would just be a bad thing to do. Didn't the summary of economic projection show someone is expecting a rate increase? I did not see that. Maybe I didn't read it right. Let me bring it up. I have the SEP right here. Of course, you're just trying to... I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to bait me into a 1 hour show. Not going to happen. Let me go to the summary of economic projections. I think this is it. Yeah, here you go. So... No, I think that it's on top. So yeah, no, 4.25. There's basically somebody thinks that we're going to know more. This is probably Bostic. The one at the top is probably Bostic right here because, let me see if I can zoom in. It's right here, this top guy. That's 4.25. Right? So 4.25 is where we're at right now, and I'm pretty sure that that's Bostic. And then this is obviously Merlin down here thinking that we should be at 2.75 right now. Crazy. Wild. All right. Will recession follow later? You know, Rob, I got to claim ignorance on that one. I don't know. You know, I just don't know. I think that there's just too many unknowns at this moment in time to make those types of assessments. My gut tells me yes, just because we've had such a monstrous market rally that as soon as the money dries up, market's going to have a pretty significant pullback. But heck if I know, man. Am I teaching core class in the near future in Irvine? I'm not. I try to tell Todd to schedule me. And it's probably a good thing that I'm not teaching core right now, just because my brain, well, I'm better now, but you guys know, going back a couple of months, whew, man, I was a wreck, absolute wreck. I never think I'd gone through anything like that in my life before. That was just such a traumatic, bizarre experience, but we're good now. We're good. So no, I will try to get Todd to give me some classes in Irvine. I need to get out and be more social and do more stuff. So, all right, that's gonna do it for me. I'm done. I'm gonna wrap up. We went through the economic calendar. On the earnings front, there's really not much happening the remainder of the week. I can bring it up for you if you guys would like. We'll just wrap up with that and show you the earnings calendar. There are a couple names, but nothing that is like monstrous. You know, there's no Nvidias or anything like that. Tomorrow, you don't have anything of significance. On Wednesday, you got BYD Motors and Cintas. On Thursday, 63 companies reporting. Costco, that's the big one for the week. The big one for the week is going to be Costco. Yeah, I'll explain Trump and the debt later. He's doing all kinds of weird things. But yeah, that's going to require much more. Maybe we'll do that on the Monday when I get back. You too, Liz. I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your week. No, earnings, pretty boring, Rob. Costco's the only one. That's on Thursday. And Accenture as well, but I don't ever trade Accenture. So to me, it's all about Costco, and their earnings on Thursday will be the most exciting part. So that's it. That's going to do it for me, guys. I will be no longer doing shows. Well, not for the rest of this week. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you guys are on your own. I hope you guys have some fun. I'll come back with some pictures, hopefully some great stories, and no bodily injuries. I have to sign a waiver to waive all rights to any injury. And when you see some of the video footage, you understand why they do that. There are some crazy things that go on out there. Should be a lot of fun. Anyway, I hope you guys have a fantastic remainder of your week. Sorry for the one-day show, but I had to come up and say hello to you at least one time. So thank you guys so much. If you guys have any comments, things you want me to discuss on next week's program, email them in at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody. I will see you on Monday.